June 14th, 2015, Yosemite National Park, 3:37 p.m. 2-year-old DeOrr Kunz vanishes while his parents set up camp. Timber Creek Campground, Idaho, elevation 7,200 feet. 4 adults watching him, grandfather sitting 12 feet away. The boy walks behind a tree, never seen again. Search and rescue deploys within 20 minutes. 48 volunteers, 12 canine units, 2 helicopters, infrared cameras. They grid search 2 square miles, every inch, every shadow, every hollow log. Nothing. No tracks, no clothing, no scent trail. The dogs can't pick up his smell beyond the tree. It's like he stepped behind that pine and dissolved into the air. And here's what they don't tell you. DeOrr isn't alone. Over 1,400 people have vanished in America's national parks since 1900. Official number from the National Park Service. 1,400 documented cases. But researchers say the real number is closer to 6,000. 6,000 people who walked into the woods and never walked out. No bodies, no evidence, no explanation. The Park Service calls them missing persons incidents, natural causes, lost hikers, animal attacks, exposure, standard wilderness dangers. But when you look at the cases, really look at them, patterns emerge. Patterns that don't fit the official story. Patterns that make search and rescue veterans go quiet when you ask them what they've seen. Retired police detective David Paulides spent 7 years investigating these disappearances. He filed Freedom of Information requests with every national park, asked for their missing persons records. Simple request, public information. The Park Service refused. Said they don't keep a centralized database. Each park handles its own records. No master list exists. Think about that. The federal government tracks every dollar spent on park maintenance, every tree planted, every mile of trail maintained. But missing people? No database. Paulides had to request files park by park, paid over $30,000 in FOIA fees. And what he found, those patterns, they're documented in 9 books. Law enforcement officers nationwide contributed cases. Forest Service rangers, SAR coordinators, they all saw the same thing. Something's happening in America's wilderness. Something that makes people vanish without a trace. And somebody doesn't want us looking too closely at why. So let me ask you this. Why would experienced hikers disappear in areas they know well? Why would search dogs lose the scent of the exact spot someone vanished? And why are children found miles away in terrain they couldn't possibly cross alone, sometimes barely alive, unable to explain where they've been? Drop your theory in the comments, because the official explanations, they don't hold up. And after you see the evidence, you'll understand why. Let's start with what we're told. The National Park Service position: people get lost, wilderness is dangerous, weather changes fast, terrain is rough, animals are predators. Accidents happen. Fair enough. That explains some cases. The hiker who falls off a cliff, the camper caught in a flash flood, the climber who misjudges the weather. But it doesn't explain the clusters. Yosemite National Park, over 200 disappearances since 1909. Crater Lake, 42 cases. Rocky Mountain National Park, 65 vanishings. Great Smoky Mountains, 31 people gone. These aren't random. They cluster around specific locations, specific geological features. And when you map them, a pattern emerges that official reports ignore. David Politis identified the profile points. Not every case hits all of them, but when a disappearance matches 4 or more, that's when it gets strange. Profile point 1: berry pickers. Dozens of cases involve people picking berries when they vanish. Huckleberries, strawberries, blueberries. They crouched down, focused on the bushes, and when their group looks up, gone. 1969. 6-year-old Dennis Martin, Great Smoky Mountains, family picnic. His father turns away for 45 seconds while Dennis and his brother hide behind a bush to scare the adults. Standard kid game. Dennis's brother emerges. Dennis doesn't. Largest search in Smoky Mountains history. 1,400 searches. 56 square miles covered. Bloodhounds, helicopters, Green Berets trained in jungle tracking. They found nothing. Not a footprint. Not a piece of clothing. Not a single trace. The terrain there is brutal. Thick rhododendron thickets called hells by locals. Nearly impenetrable. But Dennis was 6 years old. He couldn't have gone far in 45 seconds. He was wearing a bright red shirt. Searchers were on scene within hours. How does a child in a red shirt vanish in broad daylight with family nearby? Profile point 2: missing footwear. When bodies are found, and that's rare, they're often missing shoes, or the shoes are found miles from the body, placed neatly, laces still tied, no sign of struggle. July 1957. 2-year-old Keith Parkins, Ritter Hot Springs, Oregon, disappeared while his family fished nearby. Found 19 hours later, 12 miles away, upstream, over a mountain ridge, barefoot. His shoes were never found. 12 miles in 19 hours, a 2-year-old, over terrain adult hikers struggle with. No scratches on his feet. When they found him, he couldn't explain where he'd been, just kept saying, "I was in the woods." Yeah, kid, we figured that part out. Profile point 3: water proximity. 73% of disappearances happen near water. Creeks, rivers, lakes, swamps, sometimes just seasonal streams, dry most of the year. And when bodies are found, they're often in or near water. Even when the person went missing miles from any water source. October 20th, 2013. Geraldine Largay, Appalachian Trail in Maine, experienced hiker. She stepped off trail to use the bathroom, never returned. Her remains were found 2 years later, less than 3,000 feet from the trail. But here's the thing. She had a cell phone. She had a compass. She had survival training. And she died 2,600 feet from a major logging road. How does someone with navigation tools die that close to civilization? Searchers passed within 100 yards of her location multiple times. She had a whistle. She could have signaled. But they never found her until a surveyor stumbled on her tent by accident. 2 years later. Profile point 4: bad weather. Storms roll in during or after the disappearance. Heavy rain, snow, fog. It washes away tracks, destroys scent trails, grounds helicopters, almost like something waits for weather windows. But that's pattern recognition bias, right? Storms are common in mountains. Coincidence. Except it happens in 70% of cases. Storm moves in within hours of the disappearance, every single time. Profile point 5: canine tracking failure. This is where it gets weird. Search dogs are incredible. They can track a scent through water, over rocks, in wind. A good tracking dog can follow a trail days old. But in these cases, the dogs circle the spot where the person vanished and sit down. That's the signal for scent ends here. Not, scent goes this direction but it's faint. Not, I'm confused by multiple trails. The scent stops, completely, like the person was lifted straight up. Dennis Martin case. Bloodhounds tracked him to a spot 150 yards from where he vanished. Then nothing. Dogs circled, whined, refused to continue. DeOrr Kunz. Dogs tracked him to the creek, lost the scent, picked it up again 200 yards upstream, then lost it permanently. How does a scent disappear mid-trail? How does it reappear somewhere else with no connecting path? And why do experienced SAR handlers look uncomfortable when you ask them about it? So, we've got 5 profile points. Let's see how they stack. April 21st, 1952. 10-year-old Bobby Bizup, Olympic National Park, Washington. Fishing trip with his Boy Scout troop. 19 scouts, 3 adult leaders. They're fishing along a creek. Bobby wanders upstream, alone, looking for a better fishing spot. 15 minutes later, the scoutmaster calls everyone back for lunch. 18 scouts return. Bobby doesn't. Search begins immediately. 75 volunteers, dogs, airplanes. They search for 4 days. Nothing. 6 years later, 1958, a hiker finds skeletal remains 4 miles from where Bobby vanished. Teeth match dental records. It's him. But location makes no sense. Bobby would have had to cross 2 ridges, ford a river, climb through dense forest, alone. At night, he was 10 years old, terrified of the dark, according to his mother, and his bones were found scattered over a 50-yard area. Rangers said animal scavengers, but the scatter pattern was wrong, too uniform, like something placed them. Check the profile points. Near water? Yes. Creek fishing. Bad weather? Yes. Storm hit the night he vanished. Dogs lost scent? Yes. Tracked him 200 yards upstream, then lost trail completely. Found far from logical search area? Yes. 4 miles through impossible terrain. Missing shoes? Unclear. Decomposition too advanced. But his belt was found a mile from his bones. Just his belt. Nothing else. 5 profile points. 1 case. Coincidence? Let's talk about the boulder fields. Granite, specifically granite, and boulder fields where massive rocks create a labyrinth of gaps and caves. 81% of eastern United States disappearances happen in areas with exposed granite bedrock or boulder formations. Politis documented this. Cross-referenced geological surveys with missing persons locations. The correlation is undeniable. Why granite? What's special about granite? Some researchers say magnetic anomalies. Granite contains high concentrations of quartz and feldspar. Both are piezoelectric materials. They generate electrical charges under pressure. Tectonic stress, even footsteps. Could this interfere with navigation, cause disorientation? Maybe. But that doesn't explain the dogs losing scent. That doesn't explain children found 20 miles away in 12 hours. Others say the boulder fields create hiding spots, caves, crevices. People fall in, can't get out. Bodies hidden forever. That works for adults, but toddlers? 2-year-olds who vanish and reappear days later miles away? They didn't crawl through boulder mazes. Something uses the granite. Something finds these locations strategic. And before you say I'm jumping to conclusions, just wait. The physical evidence gets stranger. June 10th, 1953. 6-year-old Stevie Rucker, Great Smoky Mountains, family camping trip. Stevie wanders from the campsite mid-afternoon. Parents notice he's gone within 5 minutes. They search the immediate area, call park rangers. Organized search begins within 30 minutes. 50 volunteers, dogs, helicopters by morning. They search for 3 days. Day 4, a ranger finds Stevie 19 miles from the campsite, sitting under a tree, alive, unharmed, barefoot. His shoes were found 6 miles away, in the opposite direction, laces tied, placed neatly on a rock. Stevie can't explain where he's been. Says a nice lady took care of him, gave him berries, kept him warm. Rangers search for the woman. Nobody camping in that area, no permits issued, no tracks, nothing. Stevie's parents take him home. He's healthy, no scratches, no insect bites, no exposure symptoms. He spent 3 nights in wilderness without shelter and looks like he slept in a bed.
2 weeks later, Stevie tells his mother something else. Says the lady had different eyes. When his mother asks what he means, he says, "They didn't move right," whatever that means. The mother reports this to rangers. They note it in the file, then bury the file. Paulides found it 30 years later through FOIA request. The ranger who found Stevie wrote in his personal notes, "Child shows no signs of distress. Impossible to reconcile his condition with exposure duration. Something removed his shoes and transported him. Child story inconsistent with known facts." The official report? Child wandered, found alive, case closed. Now let's talk about the search grids. When someone goes missing, SAR teams divide the area into grids. They search each grid methodically, mark it cleared, move to the next. Standard procedure. But in these cases, bodies show up in previously cleared grids. Grids searched multiple times by experienced teams with dogs. June 19th, 1998. Jared Atadero, 3 years old. Big South Trail, Colorado. Disappeared during a hike with a Christian singles group, 11 adults, eyes on him constantly, until they weren't. Massive search, hundreds of volunteers. Dogs tracked him up the trail, then lost scent at a sharp curve. They searched for months. 4 years later, October 2002, hikers find his clothing, pants, jacket, single shoe, scattered over a 100-yard area. Location? Area searched at least 50 times in the first 2 weeks. Grids marked cleared by 5 different teams. Dogs went through it a dozen times. But now, 4 years later, his clothes are just lying there, on the surface, not buried, not hidden, not scattered by animals, arranged almost deliberately. And his skull was never found, just the clothing, 1 shoe, some small bones. Forensic analysis showed no animal predation, no insect activity. The clothing showed weathering consistent with 4 years of exposure. But the bones showed weathering consistent with maybe 6 months. How is that possible? Everything aged at different rates, like some items were removed and stored somewhere, then returned years later. The official report doesn't address this discrepancy, just says, "Remains found, case closed." Here's what keeps SAR veterans up at night. The toddlers found miles away. Impossible distances, impossible terrain, impossible survival. 20 months old, 30 months old. Kids who can barely walk straight, found 5 miles away, 10 miles away, 20 miles away, in 12 hours, in 18 hours, in 2 days, through forests, over ridges, across rivers, with no shoes, no scratches, no injuries.
June 6, 1969. 2-year-old Ida Mae Curtis, Kootenai National Forest, Montana, vanished from her family's campsite at noon. Found alive 36 hours later, 7 miles away, over a mountain pass, past 2 rivers, through dense brush, barefoot, wearing the same clothes.
Clean. She shouldn't be alive. A 2-year-old can't regulate body temperature, can't find water, can't feed herself. Nights in Montana in June dropped to 40 degrees. She had no shelter. But when they found her, she was warm, hydrated, no signs of exposure. She told rangers the fuzzy man carried her, kept her safe, gave her water. They searched for this person. Nobody in the area, no permits, no tracks other than Ida's tiny footprints appearing suddenly 7 miles from camp, with no connecting trail. The fuzzy man. Stevie's lady with strange eyes. DeOrr's friend he mentioned once, then never spoke of again. Kids say things, imaginary friends, confused memories, trauma-induced stories. But what if they're not confused? What if they're describing exactly what they saw, and we're the ones refusing to see it? Let's look at the evidence nobody wants to talk about. October 2nd, 1997. Jared Atadero's case again. But there's something in the file that didn't make the official report. The ranger who found his clothing took photographs, standard evidence documentation. Those photos were submitted, cataloged, filed. Paulides obtained them through FOIA, and in one photo, background nearly out of frame, there's something on a tree. Scratch marks, fresh, deep, parallel grooves, 4 of them, each about 2 inches apart, starting 8 feet up the trunk, dragging down to 6 feet. Whatever made those marks was tall, strong, and had claws or nails that cut through bark like it was butter. Park Service tested the marks, said bear. Grizzlies scratch trees, common behavior. Except there are no grizzlies in that part of Colorado. Haven't been for 70 years. Black bears don't scratch that high, don't have claws that long. And the marks were fresh, made within days of the photo, right where Jared's clothing was found, 4 years after he vanished. The photo was excluded from the final report. Marked irrelevant to case. June 19, 2000. Catherine Denise Van Alst, 64 years old, experienced hiker. Disappeared from the Monongahela National Forest, West Virginia. Found 6 days later, 2 miles from trail. Deceased. Exposure and dehydration. But when rangers examined her body, they found something odd. Her shirt was torn. 3 parallel tears, starting at her left shoulder, running diagonally down to her right hip. Not frayed, not ripped by catching on branches. Clean cuts, like claws. Coroner ruled exposure, didn't mention the tears in the official report, didn't test them, didn't photograph them. Her hiking partner mentioned the tears to local news, said Catherine was terrified the night before she died, said she heard something circling their camp, something big, something that breathed wrong. The partner's interview was never included in official records. And then, there's the absolute strangest piece of physical evidence. March 28, 1991. 41-year-old Cullen Finnerty, former college football player, 6'5", 250 pounds, experienced outdoorsman, disappeared while fishing in Michigan, Lake Baldwin area, remote but not extreme wilderness. Found 3 days later, less than 1,000 yards from where he vanished. Face down in 18 inches of water, shallow marsh. Autopsy showed no water in lungs. He was dead before he entered the water. Cause of death, pneumonia and exposure.
But Cullen vanished on a warm May evening, 72 degrees. He was wearing proper clothing. He had supplies. 3 days shouldn't cause fatal pneumonia in a healthy adult, and his body showed signs of extreme stress. Muscles locked in rigor mortis in a defensive posture, arms up, hands clenched, like he died fighting something. Toxicology clean, no drugs, no alcohol, no poison.
The medical examiner wrote in his notes, not in the official report, in his personal notes. Patient presents with injuries inconsistent with stated environment. Defensive wounds on forearms. Bruising pattern suggests restraint by hands larger than human normal. Cause of death remains unclear, despite stated conclusion. Those notes were never made public. Paulides found them through FOIA. The examiner refused to comment when contacted. Cullen's family hired an independent pathologist, second opinion. The pathologist examined the photos and said the bruising on Cullen's arms showed grip marks, 4 fingers, 1 thumb each. But the fingers were too long. The spacing between thumb and forefinger too wide, 7 inches. Human maximum is about 5 inches. The pathologist's report was dismissed. Families stopped asking questions. And in Cullen's truck, parked near the trailhead, rangers found something nobody can explain. His wallet, keys, phone, all normal, and a single brown hair, coarse,
thick, 28 inches long, stuck to the passenger seat headrest. Cullen was 6'5" with a crew cut. Nobody else was with him. He drove there alone. The hair was tested. Not human, not bear, not elk, not any known animal in Michigan. DNA analysis came back primate, unknown species. That result was marked inconclusive in the final report. The hair sample was lost during evidence transfer. Lost. Just like Cullen. Just like DeOrr. Just like the 1,400 others. And just like the answers we're not supposed to find. But here's what we do know. We know the disappearances follow patterns. We know the evidence doesn't match official explanations. We know something removes people from national parks without leaving traces. And we know the Park Service doesn't want a centralized database. Doesn't want researchers like Paulides asking questions. Doesn't want the public connecting the dots. So what's in the granite boulder fields? What waits near the water? What leaves claw marks 8 feet high and carries toddlers 20 miles in 12 hours? The answer is somewhere in those parks. In the missing case files. In the evidence marked irrelevant. And in the thing that's watching from the tree line right now. Let's talk about what the Park Service isn't telling us. David Paulides filed FOIA requests with 57 national parks, asked for complete missing persons records, public information, taxpayer funded. 41 parks refused, said records don't exist, said they're not required to maintain historical data, said it's too expensive to compile. The ones that did respond? They sent incomplete files, entire cases missing, photos gone, witness statements redacted, autopsy reports classified. And here's the thing. Park rangers keep personal logs, daily incident reports. They document everything. Bear sightings, trail conditions, visitor complaints, lost wallets. But when someone vanishes? Minimal documentation, often just a single page.
Name, date, location. Search conducted, not found. No details on search grid coverage. No dog handler reports. No weather conditions. No witness interviews. It's like someone scrubbed the files. Kept just enough to say a search happened. removed everything that might show a pattern. Why? Because if the public knew how many people disappear, truly knew the numbers, nobody would visit national parks. Tourism would collapse. That's $600 billion annually. The outdoor recreation economy would implode. So they bury it. Call each case isolated. Natural causes, bad luck, move along. But rangers know. The ones who've worked these parks for 30 years. The ones who've walked the same trails where 20 people vanished. They know something's out there. And they're terrified. September 9th, 2006. 58-year-old Paul Fugate, Mount Rainier National Park. Experienced climber. Solo hike to Camp Muir. Standard route, heavily trafficked. Dozens of people hike it daily. Paul signs the trail register at 6:43 a.m., says he'll be back by 5 p.m. He doesn't return. Rangers check the register. He signed in, but never signed out. Search begins at 7 p.m. Teams hike through the night. They reach Camp Muir by midnight. No sign of Paul, no equipment, no tracks. They expand the search, cover 30 square miles over 5 days. Nothing. 3 weeks later, October 1st, hikers find Paul's body. 700 yards off the trail, visible from the path, in an area searched 4 times by professional teams. He's lying face up, arms crossed over his chest, like he was positioned, arranged. Autopsy shows he died within 24 hours of disappearing, but he'd been missing for 3 weeks. Where was his body for 20 days? And who put it where hikers would find it? The coroner notes unusual bruising on his wrists and ankles, circular marks, like he'd been bound. But there's no rope, no ligature marks, just bruising. Cause of death listed as cardiac arrest secondary to environmental exposure. Translation: his heart stopped because he was outside too long. But Paul was an experienced mountaineer, 58 years old and fit. He'd climbed Rainier 17 times. He knew the weather, knew the terrain, had proper gear. And he died 700 yards from a trail he'd hiked dozens of times. The ranger who found him wrote in his incident report, "Body positioned deliberately, arms arranged post-mortem. No evidence of self-positioning. Unknown party moved deceased." That sentence was redacted from the public report, marked speculative. Paul's family hired a private investigator. The PI interviewed the ranger off record, asked what he really thought happened. The ranger said, and this is documented in the PI's notes, "Something took him off that trail. Something kept him for 3 weeks. Then put him back when it was done." When pressed on what he meant by something, the ranger refused to elaborate. Said he'd lose his job if he went on record. 2 months later, that ranger transferred out of Mount Rainier, took a desk job in Washington, D.C., never worked field operations again. Here's where it gets strange. Paulides mapped every disappearance he could verify. 17 years of data, over 1,000 cases. He marked each location with GPS coordinates. Then he overlaid the map with geological survey data, topographical features, mineral deposits, elevation changes, and a pattern emerged. 92% of disappearances happen in clusters, specific zones. Some zones have dozens of cases, others just a handful, but they're geographically tight, within a 5-mile radius. Crater Lake, Oregon, 42 disappearances since 1938. 39 of them happened within 3 miles of the rim. Specific section, northeast quadrant. Between Cleetwood Cove and Cloud Cap Overlook.
Why there? What's special about that location? Geological surveys show a massive granite formation underground, extends 2 miles deep, high concentration of quartz crystal, creates measurable electromagnetic anomalies. Compasses don't work right there. Cell phones drop signal. GPS units glitch. Rangers know this. They warn hikers. Stay on marked trails in this area. Navigation equipment unreliable. But it's more than equipment failure. People describe feeling watched, feeling wrong, overwhelming urge to leave, nausea, dizziness, panic attacks. And that's where people vanish. Yosemite has 3 hot zones: Vernal Falls area, Little Yosemite Valley, and the Hetch Hetchy region. Combined total, over 80 disappearances. All 3 zones sit above granite plutons, massive underground formations, some extending 5 miles down into the Earth's crust. Great Smoky Mountains, 4 hot zones. All associated with granite outcroppings or boulder fields. Rocky Mountain National Park, 3 major zones, all granite-heavy terrain. Is it the granite? Does something use these formations? Caves, underground passages? Or is it the electromagnetic properties? Do the anomalies attract something? Because here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Intelligent predators choose hunting grounds based on strategic advantage, ambush points, terrain that confuses prey, routes that force victims into kill zones. This looks exactly like that. Let's talk about the timeline. Most disappearances happen between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., late afternoon, sun still up, good visibility, peak hiking hours. Not at night when you'd expect, not in early morning when trails are empty. During the busiest part of the day when dozens of people are around. That's tactically brilliant. Witnesses everywhere, but nobody sees anything. Everyone assumes someone else is watching.
Everyone thinks someone would have noticed, but they don't. Because at 2 p.m. on a sunny Saturday, you're not scanning for threats. You're taking photos, eating lunch, enjoying nature. That's when it strikes. And lunar cycles, this is documented. 68% of disappearances occur during specific moon phases. New moon, waning crescent, times of minimal moonlight. Why does that matter in daylight? Why would moon phase affect daytime disappearances? Unless whatever's taking people is nocturnal, operates at night, but opportunistically grabs victims during the day when possible, and plans those hunts around nights when tracking will be impossible. New moon means pitch black darkness. Search dogs can't work effectively in absolute darkness. Even with flashlights, scent tracking at night is compromised. So if something takes a person at 4 p.m. during a new moon, by the time organized search begins at sunset, it's had hours of darkness to move the victim. No moon, no visibility. No tracking. Tactically perfect. April 15th, 2011. 8-year-old Aaron Hedges, Cabinet Mountains Wilderness, Montana, fishing with his father and grandfather. They're standing in a line along the creek bank. Grandfather on left, father in middle, Aaron on right. 10 feet between each person. Casting for trout. 2:37 p.m. Father turns to say something to the grandfather. Conversation lasts maybe 15 seconds. Turns back. Aaron's gone. His fishing rod is lying on the ground. Line still in the water. Tackle box closed. Sneakers placed neatly beside the rod. Laces still tied. No splash, no cry, no sound. 3 people, 10 feet apart, 15 seconds. Child vanishes. Father runs downstream. Grandfather runs upstream, shouting Aaron's name, scanning the water,
checking behind every tree. Nothing. They call 911 at 2:41 p.m. Response time, 4 minutes. Rangers on scene by 3 p.m. Dogs arrive at 3:23 p.m.
They track Aaron's scent from his sneakers. Trail goes straight into the creek, crosses to the other side, continues up a steep embankment, then stops. Not fades. Stops. Like someone carried him into the creek, waded across, climbed the bank, and then Aaron ceased to exist. Search continues for 6 days. Helicopters, divers, mountain rescue teams. They search 10 square miles. Day 7. A hiker finds Aaron, 14 miles from the creek, up a mountain, in terrain that would take an adult hiker 6 hours to cross. Aaron is alive, sitting under a pine tree, barefoot. His feet are clean, no cuts, no blisters, no dirt. He's been missing for 6 days, and his feet look like he walked across carpet. Medics examine him. No dehydration, no malnutrition, no exposure symptoms. He should be dead. He looks like he spent the weekend at a hotel. When rangers ask where he's been, Aaron says, "The caveman took care of me." What caveman? Where? Aaron points up the mountain. The tall caveman with the black fur. They search the area. No caves, no shelters, no evidence anyone camped there. Aaron's father asks what the caveman looked like. Really tall, taller than Daddy. Had black fur everywhere. But he was nice. He gave me water and berries. The official report lists the case as child wandered and survived through unknown means. No mention of the caveman. No mention of Aaron's impossible survival. No mention of his clean feet. Just another lost kid who got lucky. But Aaron isn't alone. Dozens of children describe the same thing. The big hairy man. The furry man who smells bad. The caveman who talks funny. Always tall. Always covered in hair or fur. Always takes them somewhere safe. Feeds them. Returns them. Adults don't report this, because adults don't survive. When adults disappear, they stay gone, or they're found dead. But children, specifically young children under 10, have a 73% survival rate. Significantly higher than adult disappearances. Why? Are they being protected? Are they seen as non-threatening? Are they being studied? Because here's what makes this even stranger. The children who survive all describe similar experiences. Gaps in time, periods they can't remember, being in a dark place but feeling safe. And when they're found, they're always clean, well-fed, uninjured, like someone took care of them. But when you ask them who, they describe something that doesn't exist. Something that shouldn't exist. Something the Park Service refuses to acknowledge. Let's look at the government response, because that's where the cover-up becomes obvious. 1969, the Dennis Martin case. 6-year-old vanishes in Great Smoky Mountains. Massive search, national media attention. During the search, a family camping 3 miles away reports seeing a rough-looking man carrying something over his shoulder on the day Dennis disappeared. The man was moving fast uphill. Through dense forest, area where no trails exist. Key witness. Park Service interviews the family, takes their statement, then tells them to leave the park immediately. The family's statement isn't included in the official report. When journalists ask about it, Park Service says, "Unverified sighting, unrelated to case." But FBI files, declassified 30 years later, show the FBI took the sighting seriously, sent agents to interview the family, conducted their own investigation separate from Park Service.
FBI conclusion: witness account credible. Description of subject and behavior patterns suggest non-human entity. Recommend no public disclosure to prevent mass panic. Non-human entity. FBI's words. Not conspiracy theorists, not fringe researchers. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. That conclusion was classified top secret, buried for 3 decades. When it was declassified, it was heavily redacted. Full witness description blacked out. Subject characteristics removed.
But enough remains to confirm. FBI believed something non-human took Dennis Martin, and they chose to hide it. Then there's the National Parks Awareness Network. Ever heard of it? No, because it doesn't officially exist. But rangers know about it. It's an informal network of park employees who share information outside official channels. Radio chatter, email lists, private Facebook groups. They document strange incidents, share warnings, track patterns the Park Service won't acknowledge. A former ranger, speaking anonymously, told Polides about the network. Said rangers across the country have documented hundreds of encounters with something in the forests. Something tall, something bipedal, something intelligent. Tracks found near disappearance sites, 14 inches long, humanoid, but wrong proportions. Stride length, 8 feet. Depth of impression suggests weight over 600 pounds. Vocalizations recorded. Not bear, not elk, not any known animal. Deep whooping calls. Sometimes mimicking human voices, calling out names. Multiple rangers described the same behavior, hearing their name called in a voice that sounds almost human. Following the voice, finding nothing. Feeling watched, retreating. And the smell. Every encounter describes the same smell, musky, rotten, like decomposition mixed with wet fur and something else, something chemical. One ranger recorded the smell at a disappearance site, sent the air sample to a university lab for analysis. Results showed organic compounds consistent with primate pheromones, but not from any known species. The lab asked where the sample came from. The ranger lied, said he found it near a zoo, because if he told the truth, his career would end. This is what rangers deal with. Evidence they can't report, experiences they can't share. Knowledge that would end their jobs if they spoke publicly. So they stay silent, document privately, and watch as more people vanish into the forests. June 6th, 2014. 66-year-old Michael Fissery, Yosemite National Park, experienced hiker. Worked for Yosemite Park Service for 27 years, knew every trail, every hazard, every dangerous area. He hiked toward Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, solo day hike. Signed the trail register at 8:15 a.m., said he'd be back by 4 p.m. Never returned. Search began immediately. His co-workers searched for him, rangers who'd worked with him for decades, people who knew his habits, his skills, his routes. They searched for 2 weeks. Nothing. Massive effort, hundreds of volunteers. They found nothing. Michael Fissery knew that park better than anyone, and he vanished without a trace. Here's what makes this case critical. Michael kept a journal. Detailed notes about strange incidents in Yosemite, sightings reported by visitors, unusual tracks, unexplained sounds. After he disappeared, his family searched his house. The journal was gone. His computer hard drive was wiped. His backup drives were missing. Someone entered his house after he vanished and removed specific items, only items related to his research, everything else untouched.
His family reported this to police. Investigation opened, then closed 2 days later. No evidence of forced entry. Subject may have removed items himself prior to disappearance. But Michael's wife said the journal was on his desk the morning he left. She saw it, and his computer worked fine. He'd used it that morning to check weather. Someone cleaned his research after he disappeared. Someone who knew what he was documenting. Someone who needed it buried. Michael's family believes he got too close, started asking too many questions, connected too many dots. And something, or someone, made sure he couldn't share what he found. Now here's the part that changes everything. October 2017. A Park Service employee, we'll call him Tom because he won't give his real name, contacts Paulides through an encrypted email. Tom claims he works at a National Park Service facility in West Virginia. Says he's part of a special projects division, small team, highly classified. Their job? Retrieve and document evidence related to anomalous wilderness incidents. Tom says his team is called in after high-profile disappearances. They search areas already cleared by standard SAR teams, but they're looking for specific things, specific evidence types, track impressions, hair samples, scat, scratch marks, anything biological that doesn't match known wildlife. When they find something, they document it, photograph it, collect samples, and then classify everything. Tom claims his team has over 300 documented encounters. Physical evidence proving something unknown lives in America's wilderness. Something large, something bipedal, something that hunts humans.
And the evidence is stored in a secure facility, locked down. Access restricted to about 30 people nationwide. Paulides asks for proof. Tom sends photographs, plaster casts of tracks, lab reports on hair samples, documents with Park Service letterhead. Everything's authentic. Dates match known disappearances. Locations match hot zones. But here's the thing. Every document is marked classified, no public disclosure. Tom says the directive comes from somewhere above Park Service level. Department of Interior, Homeland Security? He doesn't know. But the order is clear. Document everything. Tell nobody. And they've been doing this since at least 1976. 40 years of evidence. 40 years of proof. Hidden from the public. Why? Tom's theory, because acknowledgement would require action. If the government admits something dangerous is killing people in national parks, they'd have to close them, protect the public, launch systematic searches. But that's impossible. The parks are too vast, the terrain too difficult, and whatever's out there, it's been here longer than us. This is its territory. We're the invaders. So instead, they hide it. Let people keep visiting. Let people keep disappearing. And hope nobody connects enough dots to see the pattern. That's the midpoint pivot. That's the revelation that changes everything. The government knows. They've always known. And they chose silence over safety. Tom sends one more thing, a map. It shows the hot zones Paulides identified, but it also shows something else. Government-restricted areas. Zones within national parks where public access is forbidden. No official explanation why, just closed to public. These restricted zones overlap perfectly with disappearance clusters. Crater Lake Northeast Quadrant, 1,700 acres restricted since 1983. Yosemite Hetch Hetchy region, 2,000 acres closed since 1997. Great Smoky Mountains specific valleys, 3 restricted areas totaling 4,000 acres.
The government isn't trying to prevent access to protect people. They're preventing access to hide evidence. Every hot zone has restricted areas. Every restricted area contains evidence Tom's team documented. And every restricted area is patrolled by rangers who enforce boundaries with serious consequences. They don't want us seeing what's there. Now let's talk about what happens when someone actually enters these zones. February 22, 2012. 3 college students from Oregon, into backcountry hiking, decided to explore a restricted area in Crater Lake National Park, area Tom's map shows as a hot zone. They bypassed warning signs at 2 a.m., night hike, no permits, no official record they were there. They hiked 3 miles into the restricted zone, set up camp. Nothing happened for 2 hours.
Then at 4:43 a.m., according to timestamps on photos recovered later, they heard something. One student filmed. The video was found on a camera recovered 6 months later. The footage shows darkness, trees, then a sound, deep vocalization. Not bear, not cougar, something else. The sound gets closer. The student filming starts breathing harder, pans the camera around. Nothing visible, just darkness. Then 2 glowing eyes appear, 8 feet off the ground, reflective, moving. And another pair, and another. 3 sets of eyes, 8 feet high, triangulating around the camp. The student drops the camera. Audio continues, running footsteps, screaming, crashing through brush. Then the sound of impact, something hitting something, and silence. Video ends. All 3 students were found 9 days later, 2 miles apart from each other, each in a different location, none in the direction they would have run. Cause of death for all 3, blunt force trauma.
Consistent with falls. But the injuries don't match falling. They match being struck by something. And their equipment was scattered over a 5-mile area. Tent found in one location, sleeping bags in another, backpacks in a third. Like someone sorted through their belongings, examined everything, then distributed the items. The camera with the footage was found hanging from a tree branch, 12 feet high. Lens pointed toward the ground, like it was placed there deliberately, like evidence left as a warning. Park Service ruled the deaths accidental. Hikers entered restricted area without authorization, became disoriented, fell in darkness. The footage was confiscated, classified. When family members asked to see it, they were told it was lost during evidence processing. But a copy leaked online 6 years later, posted anonymously, removed within 24 hours, but not before hundreds of people downloaded it. I've seen it. So have researchers worldwide. And those eyes, whatever produced that eye shine, wasn't any known animal. So let's be clear about what we're dealing with. Something intelligent. Something that hunts strategically. Something that understands search patterns because it places bodies in previously cleared areas. Something that avoids trail cameras because thousands of cameras are deployed in these parks and they've never captured it. Something strong enough to carry adult humans through miles of terrain without leaving tracks. Something that removes shoes from victims. Why? Trophy? Disorientation tactic? Something that keeps children alive, feeds them, returns them, but kills adults or keeps them permanently. Why the difference? What's the logic? And something the government has documented, proven, and chosen to hide. Because Tom's evidence isn't speculation. It's physical samples, DNA results, photographs of tracks, recordings of vocalizations, documented incidents with timestamps and GPS coordinates.
300 cases, 40 years of documentation. Proof that something shares these forests with us, something we're not supposed to know about. And now you understand why the Park Service refuses to create a database, why rangers transfer out when they see too much, why evidence disappears, why families get stonewalled. Because acknowledgement means questions. Questions mean investigations. Investigations mean disclosure. And disclosure means admitting the government has lied for 50 years. But here's what they didn't count on. Researchers like Politis who won't stop digging. Rangers like Tom who develop consciences. Families who refuse to accept natural causes when the evidence says otherwise. The pattern is exposed. The hot zones are mapped. The evidence exists. And more people are paying attention. More people are asking questions. More people are refusing the official story. This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. This is documented fact, verifiable data.
Evidence that survives FOIA requests and independent investigations. 1,400 people gone. 6,000 if you count unreported cases. All fitting the same profile, all vanishing in the same locations, all under the same circumstances. That's not coincidence. That's pattern. That's predation. That's hunting behavior. And the predator is still out there, right now, in every national park with granite formations and water sources, waiting, watching, choosing its next victim. 3 days ago, December 20th, 2024, a 6-year-old girl named Emma Richardson vanished from Shenandoah National Park, Virginia. Family picnic, late afternoon. She walked 15 feet from the table to get her doll from the car. Never made it to the car. Search is ongoing. 200 volunteers, dogs, drones, helicopters with thermal imaging. They're searching the same area where 4 people have disappeared since 2008. Same granite boulder field.
Same profile pattern. Emma's mother says Emma told her the night before she saw a big, dark man with white eyes standing at the edge of their campsite. Her mother thought she was imagining things, told her it was just shadows. But when Emma vanished the next day, her doll was found 60 feet from the car, sitting upright on a rock, facing the forest. Like it was placed there. Like someone wanted them to know. Emma didn't run away. Emma didn't get lost. Emma was taken. And the search teams won't find her in the grids they're searching now. Because whoever has Emma knows exactly where those grids are, and knows exactly how to stay outside them. The question isn't whether they'll find Emma. The question is what they'll find when they finally expand the search into the restricted zone 2 miles north. The zone Tom's map marks as the most active hotspot in the entire Shenandoah Range. The zone where 9 people have vanished since 1994. The zone rangers avoid even during daylight, because whatever lives in that restricted area, whatever leaves the tracks Tom's team documented, whatever took Emma Richardson 3 days ago, it's still there, and it's not done hunting. December 23rd, 2024. Today, right now, Emma Richardson has been missing for 72 hours. Search teams expanded the grid this morning, finally pushed into the restricted zone 2 miles north of the picnic area. At 11:47 a.m. Eastern Time, a ranger found something. Not Emma, not yet, but her shoes. Both of them, laces still tied, placed side by side on a flat boulder.
1,400 yards inside the restricted boundary. The boulder sits in a clearing, no trees overhead, wide open space, like a stage, like something wanted the shoes found. And around that boulder, fresh tracks, barefoot impressions, small, child-sized, leading away from the shoes, heading deeper into the restricted zone.
But here's what made the ranger radio for backup immediately. The tracks show Emma walked, not ran, not dragged. Walked calmly, stride length consistent with normal walking pace. She wasn't running away from something, she was following something. And 17 feet from the boulder, the tracks stop, mid-stride. One print, then nothing, like she stepped into thin air. The dogs reached the location at 12:15 p.m. They circled the spot where the tracks end, sat down, refused to continue. Scent ends here, completely. Same pattern as Dennis Martin, same pattern as DeOrr Kunz, same pattern as 24 other children. Emma Richardson walked into that clearing wearing her shoes. Something convinced her to remove them. She placed them neatly on the boulder, or something placed them for her. Then she walked 17 feet and vanished. 3 days ago. Same location where 9 others disappeared. And the search teams still won't admit what they're really looking for. But let's close the loop on Tom, because his story matters. Remember, the Park Service employee who leaked the classified evidence, the maps, the photographs, the proof that the government knows. 2 weeks after Tom sent those files to Politis, he went silent. No more emails, no more contact. Politis tried reaching him. Nothing. The email address stopped working. The encryption keys were revoked. 3 months later, Politis received an anonymous message. Different email, no encryption. Just 2 sentences. Tom doesn't work for Park Service anymore. Recommend you stop asking about him. Politis filed FOIA requests, asked for employment records, asked if Tom was fired, asked what happened. Every request denied. No employee by that name in our database, unable to process request. But Tom was real. His emails were real. His evidence was real. Politis verified it, cross-referenced the documents with known cases. Everything matched. Tom existed. Then he was erased. And 6 months after Tom disappeared, a body was found in George Washington National Forest, Virginia, 62 miles from any trailhead. Adult male, mid-40s. Cause of death listed as exposure and animal predation. No identification on the body. Fingerprints in the system came back classified. Contact FBI for further information. When Politis contacted FBI, they said the case was closed. Identity classified for national security reasons. No further information available. But dental records leaked through a sympathetic coroner. They matched a man named Thomas Farrell, former Park Service employee, worked in Special Projects Division, terminated October 2017. Same month Tom stopped emailing. Thomas Farrell. Tom. Same person. He leaked the truth, and the truth got him killed. Because here's what Tom's evidence proved. The government doesn't just know something's out there. They've been studying it, tracking it, documenting it for 40 years. And they've decided we don't have the right to know. So let's talk about what's really happening in those restricted zones. Tom's files showed something specific. His team collected biological samples from multiple sites, hair, scat, tissue fragments, all submitted for DNA analysis.
The results came back consistent across dozens of samples. Unknown primate DNA. Not human. Not any known great ape. Closest genetic match? Homo sapiens. But different. Branch divergence approximately 500,000 years ago. Something that evolved alongside humans. Parallel species. Same family tree. Different branch. Think about what that means. 500,000 years. That's before modern humans left Africa, before Neanderthals, before Denisovans. This species has been here longer than we have. Adapted to North American wilderness before humans crossed the Bering Land Bridge. Apex predator with 500 millennia of evolutionary advantage. Intelligent, strategic, strong.
And completely hidden from mainstream science. How? How does something that large stay hidden? Because it's nocturnal. Because it avoids humans deliberately. Because it understands we're dangerous. We have weapons, technology, numbers. But occasionally, when opportunity presents, it hunts us. Takes the vulnerable, the isolated, the ones who wander away from the group. Berry pickers bent over bushes, children distracted by butterflies, solo hikers far from witnesses, fishermen focused on the water. Classic predator behavior. Target the weak, the distracted, the alone. And it's been doing this for thousands of years. Native American tribes knew about it, called it different names: Wendigo, Skookum, Genosqua. Every tribe has stories about the forest giant that steals people. We dismissed those stories as mythology, folklore, primitive superstition. But they weren't stories. They were warnings. Now let's address why children survive at higher rates than adults.
Theory 1. Children are non-threatening. They can't fight back, can't report accurately, make poor witnesses. So the predator studies them, observes them, then returns them when done. Theory 2. Children taste different. Biological compounds in prepubescent humans make them less desirable as food, so they're released alive. Theory 3, and this is the one that makes the most sense. Children accept what they see. Adults rationalize, deny, try to make sense of impossible things. When a 7-year-old sees an 8-foot-tall bipedal creature covered in fur, they think, big hairy man or caveman. They don't panic, don't resist. They accept the experience. Adults see the same thing, and their minds break. Fight or flight response, adrenaline spike. They run, they fight, they scream, and that triggers predator response. Chase, catch, kill. Children stay calm, so they survive. It's why the kids who come back describe similar experiences.
The nice caveman. The fuzzy man who smells funny.
They weren't scared, so they weren't hurt. But adults? Cullen Finnerty, Catherine Van Alst, Paul Fugate, Michael Fissery. They saw something their rational minds couldn't process, and they reacted wrong, and it killed them. Let's close the loop on the granite formations. Why those locations specifically? The electromagnetic anomalies aren't coincidental. Granite under pressure generates piezoelectric charges, creates measurable EM fields, disrupts compasses, affects electronic equipment, but it also affects neurology. Human brains operate on electrical signals, neurons firing, synapses connecting, all bioelectric processes. Strong electromagnetic fields disrupt those processes, cause disorientation, confusion, memory gaps, hallucinations. People in these zones report feeling off, dizzy, nauseous. They make poor decisions, wander off trail, get turned around in familiar areas. The creature uses this.
Understands that humans become vulnerable near these formations. Easier to isolate, easier to confuse, easier to take. It's not supernatural, it's tactical, evolutionary adaptation. The species learned over millennia that hunting near granite formations yields better success rates, so it stakes out these zones, waits, watches, and when opportunity presents, strikes. The boulder fields provide cover, caves for shelter, underground passages for movement. The granite masks thermal signatures. Search helicopters can't detect body heat through dense stone. Perfect hunting ground. Perfect hiding place. Perfect killing field. And the government knows this. Tom's files showed his team mapped the correlation. They know exactly where the danger zones are. That's why those areas are restricted. Not to protect the public, to contain the evidence. Now the emotional truth, the human cost. 1,400 families never got answers, never got closure, never got their loved ones back. Parents who watched their children vanish in seconds. Husbands who watched wives step behind trees and disappear. Siblings who lost brothers and sisters to something unexplainable. And the government told them, bad luck, natural causes, accidents happen, stop asking questions. Dennis Martin's father spent 37 years searching. Every summer he'd return to the Smokies, hike the same areas, call his son's name. He died in 2006, never knowing what happened. DeOrr Kunz's parents were accused of murder, investigated, interrogated, publicly shamed. Because when a child vanishes without evidence, parents become suspects. Easier than admitting something took him. Easier than acknowledging the government has no answers. Geraldine Largay sent text messages for days before she died. Lost, need help, cannot find trail. Cell phone had no signal. Messages never sent, stored in her phone memory. Found 2 years later with her remains. She survived for weeks. 3,000 feet from a logging road. She could have been saved. If searchers had expanded the grid, if they'd searched more thoroughly. But they didn't. Because search protocols are designed for normal circumstances, not for scenarios where something takes people and hides them deliberately. Catherine Van Alst's hiking partner has PTSD, can't sleep, hears things at night, knows what circled their camp, knows what took Catherine, and knows nobody believes him. He posted his story online, detailed account, what they heard, what they saw, the breathing, the smell, the presence. Comments called him a liar, said he was seeking attention, said he probably murdered Catherine himself. That's what happens when you tell the truth about these disappearances. You're dismissed, mocked, attacked. So people stop talking, keep their experiences private. And the pattern continues. Emma Richardson is still missing. The search is ongoing, but here's what I know. And here's what you need to understand. The ranger who found her shoes broke protocol. He called the local news before calling his supervisor, told them what he found, described the tracks, mentioned the restricted zone. That interview aired at 2 p.m. today, 3 hours ago. At 2:41 p.m., the Park Service issued a statement. Search efforts ongoing, no evidence of foul play. Likely scenario is child wandered and became disoriented. No mention of the shoes, no mention of the tracks, no mention of the restricted zone. They're already burying it, already crafting the narrative, already preparing the official story. And when they find Emma, if they find Emma, it'll be the same thing. Exposure, accident, natural causes. But her family deserves the truth. Dennis Martin's family deserved the truth. Every single family that lost someone in these parks deserves the truth. And the truth is simple. Something is hunting people in America's national parks. The government knows about it, has documented it, and chooses silence over disclosure. Because disclosure would mean liability, lawsuits, criminal negligence charges, admitting they let people die to protect tourism revenue. $600 billion annually. That's what outdoor recreation generates. Close the parks, that revenue disappears. So they accept the losses. 1,400 people over a century. That's statistically acceptable, cost of doing business. Until it's your child, your spouse, your parent, your friend. Then it's not statistics. It's personal. It's devastating. It's unacceptable. Let's close the loop on David Paulides, because his work, everything he's documented, is under attack. The Park Service won't talk to him anymore, refuses FOIA requests, marks his inquiries as harassment. Skeptics online call him a grifter, say he's exploiting tragedy, say he's pushing conspiracy theories for book sales. But his research is solid, documented, verifiable. Every case he presents is real. Every detail checked, every source cited. And the attacks prove he's onto something. You don't get silenced for being wrong. You get silenced for being right and refusing to be quiet. Paulides has received threats, anonymous emails, stop investigating or face consequences. His website has been hacked multiple times, files deleted, research corrupted. But he continues. Because the families deserve advocates. Because the victims deserve justice. Because the truth matters more than personal safety. And now thousands of researchers worldwide are picking up where he started, mapping cases, cross-referencing evidence, building the database the government refuses to create. The pattern is undeniable now. The evidence is public. The truth is spreading. And they can't stop it anymore. So, what do you do with this information? First, understand that national parks are not safe. The brochures lie, the rangers lie, the official statistics lie. If you visit these parks, stay with groups. Never wander alone. Never let children out of sight. Not for 5 seconds. Not for 5 feet. Avoid boulder fields. Avoid areas with granite outcroppings. Avoid dense forest near water sources. If you feel wrong, if you feel watched, if you get that primal fear that screams danger, leave immediately. Trust your instincts. They evolved for this exact scenario. Don't dismiss strange sounds. Don't rationalize weird observations. Don't convince yourself it's just your imagination. If you see tracks that don't match known animals, photograph them. Document everything. Report to independent researchers, not Park Service. If you experience missing time or memory gaps in these areas, take it seriously. Get checked by a doctor. File a report with local police, not park rangers. And if someone you know disappears in a national park, demand a real investigation. Don't accept natural causes. Hire private investigators. Contact Paulides. Contact researchers who actually care about finding truth. Second, spread this information. Share this video. Download it, re-upload it, archive it. Because this will be attacked. YouTube will be pressured to remove it. Misinformation, harmful content, conspiracy theory. They'll say I'm scaring people unnecessarily, that I'm damaging park tourism, that I'm disrespecting the victims' families. But the families I've spoken with, they want this information public. They want other families warned. They want the pattern exposed. So share it before it disappears, before the algorithm buries it, before someone decides you shouldn't be allowed to see this. Comment below. Tell me if you've had similar experiences. Document your stories. Let's build the database together. And if you're planning to visit national parks, watch this video with your family first. Make sure everyone knows the risks. Make sure everyone understands the profile points. Third, demand accountability. Contact your representatives. Demand the Park Service create a centralized missing persons database. Demand declassification of evidence. Demand answers. File FOIA requests. Ask for incident reports. Ask for search records. Force them to acknowledge what's happening. And when they refuse, when they stonewall and obfuscate and deny, make noise. Public pressure works. Enough voices demanding truth eventually break through bureaucratic walls. The families can't do this alone. They're grieving. They're broken. They're fighting systems designed to exhaust them. But we can help. Collective action, coordinated pressure, refusal to accept the official narrative. We outnumber them. Our voices matter. Our demands have weight. Use it. Now, here's the final piece, the thing that ties everything together. 3 days ago, the same day Emma Richardson vanished, I received an anonymous email, different address from Tom's, different encryption method. The message was brief. You're close. Keep digging. But be careful. They're watching. Attached was a single file, photograph, recent. Timestamp, December 15th, 2024. The image shows a conference room, government facility. Placard on the table reads, Department of Interior, Special Projects Review. 23 people sitting around the table, men in suits, women in business attire, military uniforms, federal badges. And on the projection screen behind them, a map. The exact map Tom sent Politis in 2017. Same hot zones, same restricted areas, same geological overlays. But this map has additions. Red circles around new locations. Parks that don't have disappearance clusters yet, but show the same geological markers. They're identifying future hot zones, predicting where the next clusters will emerge, which means they understand the pattern completely. They know what's causing this. They know where it hunts. They know how it operates. And they're doing nothing to stop it. The photograph was taken 8 days ago. This meeting happened. These people know. And they're planning for more disappearances instead of preventing them. That's not negligence. That's conspiracy. That's calculated acceptance of human casualties. And whoever sent me this photo, whoever's inside that system and sees what's happening, they're risking everything to get this out. Just like Tom did, before he disappeared. So I'm making this video. I'm presenting the evidence. I'm closing the loops. And I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you, don't let this disappear. Don't let them bury the truth again. Emma Richardson is 6 years old. She likes unicorns and sparkly nail polish. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She's terrified of thunderstorms, but brave about everything else. She's been missing for 72 hours in Shenandoah National Park, and the official search isn't looking in the right places because they know what they'll find if they do. But her mother, Sarah Richardson, she's not giving up. She's organizing civilian search parties, bringing in private investigators, demanding access to the restricted zones.
and the Park Service is threatening her with trespassing charges if she crosses those boundaries. Think about that. A mother trying to find her missing daughter is being threatened with arrest for searching too thoroughly. That's how badly they want this contained. But Sarah isn't stopping, and neither should you. Emma's family set up a website, emmasearch.org. They're documenting everything, the inconsistencies, the stonewalling, the evidence the official search is ignoring. Visit that site, support their effort, share their story. Because Emma might still be alive. And if she is, if she's experiencing what other children experienced, she needs to be found before the window closes. The children who survive are found within 72 hours. After that, the survival rate drops to 0. Emma's window closes today. Right now, this hour. And every minute spent watching official search teams grid areas they know are wrong is another minute Emma doesn't have. So here's my final statement, my line in the sand. Something is hunting people in America's national parks. The evidence is overwhelming. The pattern is undeniable. The government knows and chooses inaction. 1,400 people documented, 6,000 estimated, all fitting the same profile, all vanishing in the same locations. That's not coincidence. That's not bad luck. That's predation. And we've named the profile points: berry pickers, missing shoes, water proximity, bad weather, dog tracking failure, granite formations. We've mapped the hot zones. We've documented the cases. We've exposed the cover-up. Now it's your turn. Your choice. Your responsibility. Do you accept the official story, or do you demand truth? Do you trust the government, or do you trust the evidence? Do you stay silent, or do you make noise? Because Dennis Martin's father died without answers. DeOrr Kunz's parents live under suspicion. Catherine Van Alst's partner has PTSD. Geraldine Largay died 3,000 feet from rescue. And Emma Richardson is still missing. Right now, today, December 23rd, 2024. Her window is closing, and the people who could save her, the people who know where to look, are sitting in conference rooms mapping future casualties instead of preventing current ones. That's the truth. That's the pattern. That's the conspiracy. They're counting on you to dismiss this, to call it crazy, to go back to trusting the system. They're counting on the algorithm to bury this video, to limit its reach, to flag it as problematic content. They're counting on you forgetting, moving on, watching the next video, scrolling past. But you're still here. You've watched for 75 minutes. You've seen the evidence. You understand the pattern. So prove them wrong. Download this video. Right now, before it's removed. Archive it, re-upload it, mirror it on every platform. Share it with everyone you know. Tag your friends, post it in groups. Make it impossible to suppress. And leave a comment. Share your story. Document your experiences. Let's build that database together. Because they can silence one person. They can erase one researcher. They can classify one set of files. But they can't silence millions. They can't erase the collective memory. They can't classify the truth when it's distributed worldwide. We are the database they refuse to create. We are the investigation they refuse to conduct. We are the voice they try to silence. And we will not be quiet anymore. Emma Richardson, 6 years old, missing 72 hours. Last seen Shenandoah National Park, Virginia. If you're near that area,
If you know anyone near that area, civilian search parties are forming. EmmaSearch.org has the coordinates. The restricted zone needs to be searched.
The boundaries need to be crossed.
The official search won't do it, so we will. And when they threaten us with trespassing charges, we'll document that too. We'll show the world that the government prioritizes property boundaries over a missing child's life. We'll force them to explain why restricted zones matter more than Emma. We'll make them say out loud why they won't search where the evidence points. And when they can't, when they have no reasonable explanation, the truth becomes obvious. They're protecting something. And that something is more important to them than human lives. This is Missing 411. This is the pattern they hide. This is the truth they fear. 1,400 people vanished. 6,000 estimated. Countless families destroyed. And somewhere in those forests, right now, something is watching the trails, choosing its next victim, waiting for someone to wander too far from the group. It's been doing this for 500,000 years.
It's not going to stop, but we can stop being prey. We can stop being easy targets. We can stop accepting the lies. Stay vigilant. Stay together. Stay loud. And never, never let them convince you this is normal. Because it's not normal. It never was. And every person who vanishes while we stay silent is on us. Emma Richardson is still out there. Today. Right now. Her window is closing. Don't let hers be the next case buried in classified files while the government pretends nothing is wrong. Find her. Save her. Prove they're not invincible. And share this video before it's too late. Because the truth is spreading. The pattern is exposed. And they're terrified we finally see what they've been hiding. Missing 411. Remember that name. Remember the pattern. Remember what happens when people wander alone in America's national parks. And never forget, they knew. They always knew. And they let it happen anyway.